debunk them.
So I want to talk about some old myths that I used to implement versus then and now with the technology change. So back in the day, I always thought, and I had a good success rate of heavy snowfall, more snow, get as close as we possibly could to the habitat to decrease the amount of physical exhaustion that the coyote would actually have to put into coming to a call. So that particular year, I remember we shot a bunch of coyotes, maybe a dozen, hugging habitat, starting a stand, calling, and getting the coyote, seeing the coyote, having a visual, shooting the coyote, and recovering the coyote and leaving. As the technology change happened, what I got to watch was, even in super heavy snow, like knee-deep snow, that coyote, my hand's way down here, you can't see it, but the length of leg for the coyote to actually come across a field to come to a call, they would still do it. Constantly, not once, not twice, not three times, but over and over and over. Even in heavy snowfall, the technology that we have with the thermal capability that we have when the lights go out, of actually watching what coyotes do when the lights go out, the animal is still coming to the call. So back in the day, before the technology, we would always go with the approach of, why would the animal burn that much calorie to come to a call if it's not cost effective? You know, I always thought the animal is cost and effect. It's going to cost me this much caloric intake to come to a call, and it's not worth my effort. So back then, we would always hug habitat. We had a good success rate. You know, back then, without the technology, without the thermals, we were still shotgun, killing coyotes, timber sits, shotgun, rifle, in the timber, hugging habitat. We were still doing good, but the technology change, what we got to watch over the course of time was coyotes are still doing coyote things even with heavy snowfall. So that was one myth, and I'm looking down, I still have a bullet point right here that I'm looking at that I just want to keep my focus of attention talking about. Cold weather does not make coyotes reckless. It does not. They still rely on this right here, just the olfactory sense of smell. So even though we were hugging habitat, we were still having a good success rate on coyotes, hugging habitat in the timber. But what we learned over the course of time of the technology change and watching and standing further away from habitat, we're not sitting in the bedroom. We had fun, we were successful, but obviously with technology change, we're proficient. We're very proficient at what we do. And what we watched was more coyotes traveling distance using topographical features, travel corridors, wind breaks, snow breaks. Picture a snow fence, which could be a hedgerow, anything that's preventing snow drifts, an easy travel corridor. Those coyotes are going to use it to come to a call. Curiosity always kills the cat. So hunger doesn't increase interest, and it does not remove caution from a coyote. So if you're throwing out prey distress sounds, it's like ringing the dinner bell. Pavlov's theory, you want to ring the dinner bell and get that dog to salivate. You want to pique the interest, but the number one thing is that olfactory sense. Which way is the wind blowing? So that's number one always. Keep that in mind. Which way is the wind blowing? Where's your downwind? what is that animal going to gravitate towards for success in the field and how it's going to survive. So cold coyotes still verify wind. Absolutely. Even in cold temperatures, when you think that animal's survival instinct, I'm going to throw out prey distress sounds. Not always. Their natural instinct to survive is not always going to revolve around prey distress sounds. This time of year, cold weather, remember that bell curve of breeding. Early season, right where we're at right now, you can call where we're at mid-January, pre-rut, into peak rut for coyotes in February, and then starting to come down in the latter part of February into March. 62-day gestation period from conception to birth, and those coyote pups are being born at the optimal time for survival. So don't always think prey distress, easy meal, easy shots at coyotes. Go back to the vocalizations. So when a coyote hangs up, it usually means one thing. It's interested. It's absolutely interested. So right here, I have a producer. I'm a blue collar dude. I have a hard time with me, my shop work, and all of this YouTube, everything that we're doing. So my producer is going to throw in a video on a hang up coyote. And I gave him a video of a hang up coyote. And this particular coyote was actually an early season coyote. And how we approach that particular coyote. So that animal right there, as we're calling, there's a deer in the field, rabbit distress, first weekend in October, and coyote breaks the sanctuary cover. It comes out into the field. And we watch the deer bound off. It sees the coyote or hears the coyote or smells the coyote, very close proximity, the deer bounds off, but that coyote breaks cover. We have eyes on it. We're looking at it, we're seeing it. We could probably hit it, but it's really not like in our wheelhouse of our effective range. And the next thing we see is the coyote do a 180 and it goes right back into habitat. So how did I bring that coyote in? I want to recaptivate its attention. I give it a little bit, and then I started calling again with my squealer, and it popped out closer to my downwind. So that coyote left. Some guys might be like, crap. It smelled us, it heard us. No, it did not smell us. There's not a snowball's chance in hell that this coyote smelled us. It piqued interest, it showed interest. It never sat down. It just went back to the sanctuary cover. And it hugged the sanctuary cover and popped out, getting closer to our downwind. And I recaptivated the attention. I kept calling. I went back to my squealer. How did I start the conversation? That's how I finished the conversation. It popped back out. It was hesitant, but it was super, super curious. And that was the one thing watching the body language on this coyote, that it wasn't nervous, it was super curious, but its survival instinct, mom and dad did a really good job teaching this coyote that. It couldn't see us. It couldn't smell us. And what does it want to do? It wants to smell us. It heard us. No, that's for sure. Went to our downwind, and I shot it before it hit the scent cone and before it hit my scent cone, and piled that coyote up 110, 120 yards probably. If the coyote retreats, the body language, watch the body language. If the coyote sits, usually that dictates last stand. It sits down. If the coyote is sitting and it's in your effective range, anchor, send it. That's kind of the coyote's last stand, where it's audibly inspecting, it's visually inspecting, it's using its nose, it's olfactory inspecting, it's examining all of its surroundings to determine is it or is it not safe. If that coyote's sitting, you probably want to get into the best position to actually send a round. That coyote, its body language, it retreated back to the sanctuary of cover, popped out closer to my downwind. Topographical features, we put ourselves in a good position for success, and that's where I shot the coyote. So don't necessarily think that if the coyote retreats, it's over. Stick with it. Listen to what any responses are. That coyote came in silent and was able to take a shot on it. So, overcalling. I always revert back to white noise. I don't want to sound like white noise, where I'm just calling and calling and calling and calling, smashing buttons on an e-caller, using a hand call, and just constantly making noise. I don't want to turn into white noise. I want to recaptivate that coyote's attention. So even wintertime, early season, soon as the season starts in October, I'm going to do the same thing when it's a prey distress sound. I want to sound captivating as possible. So if I'm using my rabbit squealer, up and down, multiple spectrums of tone. Start quiet and then start projecting your sound louder and louder and louder until you hit the apex of sound, and then just make it erratic as possible for coyotes. And then I typically stop. I shut up and I wait and I listen, any audible response, and then I'll give it a minute or two. And then I'll start all over again. I want to sound sick, I want to sound ill, I want to sound injured, I want to sound as captivating as possible, because the approach of that coyote, it heard it, it wants to see it, it wants to smell it. And what is that coyote actually doing on the approach? It's doing this. It's going all over the place. It's not point A to point B. They didn't hear it and they're running a straight line to my call. It's erratic movement, and it takes time to get to the call. So something I've said before, repeating myself, depending on the size of the habitat is going to determine the length of the stand of my call. Smaller habitats, shorter stands, bigger habitats, longer setup for stands. So keep that in mind. If it's big habitat, hang out a little bit longer. It's not a contest. It's like right here where I live, I say it's not a contest because contests were criminalized where we live in upstate New York. All of New York State, contests were criminalized. Success in the field, confident to say bigger habitat, longer stands, smaller habitat, shorter stands. Erratic sounds, start quiet and then progression. Pick up your volume as you start calling, make it erratic, stop, wait, pause, long pauses in between, couple of minutes. Don't expect you calling and a coyote answering like that, regardless of the call you're making. Give it time. So hunters assume hang-ups mean failure. Talked about that. All right. So if you're calling and you have a visual, you see the coyote, watch the body language. If it retreats back into the sanctuary cover, pay really close attention towards the downwind. Overcalling. This is something that's really important. Brought this up before, where your whitetail deer hunter that's very proficient in the field versus your turkey hunter that's very proficient in the field. I'd be very confident to say your turkey hunter is going to manifest faster and way better into a predator caller and being actually proficient in calling in predators, fox, bobcat, coyote, just from calling dynamics. When to call, read the body language, when to cut distance, and most importantly, when to shut up. Because sometimes silence is your best call. We've vocalized a lot, we've howled a lot, no response. Here comes a coyote. Read the body language, read the room, woodsman skills. So, last one here. Those end more winter stands than hunger ever fixes. Hung up doesn't mean failed. It means you're being evaluated. So this is something that's very, very tough. I kept a journal one year and I documented everything you could possibly think of between barometric pressure, wind direction, moon phase, the call I was using, whether it was vocalizations or a prey distress sound, typically all on hand calls. I have a very limited vocabulary of what I can use, of what's on my lanyard, but I kept a journal one whole year and applied it to the next season. And after 1 year, one full year, after everything I've done over the whole course of time, now I put pen to paper, I took that journal and I threw it in my wood stove. Because it meant nothing. Because I could not replicate statistical information of putting pen to paper with success rate. What was the barometric pressure? What was the wind? What was the moon phase? All of that information didn't mean a damn thing. So I heated my shop with it. Everything I can suggest to you is, if the weather's appropriate, if the wind is appropriate, go out and call the stand. Enjoy the camaraderie. Go have fun. If Mother Nature is hurting your body, maybe stay inside. That's where I'm at right now. That journal that I kept, I wanted to try to gather some sort of statistical validity with coyote movement. You know, deer season, whitetail deer. You got a cold weather front coming in. It's been warm temperatures. You got snow coming in. It's pretty easy to dictate deer movement. It's not that hard. Temperature dictates movement. Temperature does not mean a damn thing when it comes to rut activity. Temperature dictates movement. So all of that information that I applied to the coyote woods, with taking every piece of information that I could possibly gather with anything, barometric pressure, wind direction, moon phase, time of year, the call that I was using, anything that I applied, and then I applied it the next year to the same time of year, it didn't matter. Nothing at all mattered. We would go out one night and we would have great success. We would have great visuals. we'd kill a bunch, and then you'd take that same exact information from the previous year, apply it to the next year, to the same exact time frames, same exact conditions, and you wouldn't see a damn thing. And then you'd go back out to the same properties a day or two later, completely different. So my best suggestion is, if you have time and you can get out into the field and you have appropriate wind direction, my conclusion is all of the properties you can acquire, all of the properties that we've acquired over the years, you're in the right place, but at the wrong time. Just keep at it and keep calling, have a success rate, come up with your own statistics of what the animal does on that property, where do they typically travel from, and kind of come up with your own formula. Starting is very difficult. Don't take an isolated incident and apply it to the whole entire wildlife population. Take one incident and just keep it in the back of your mind that if it happened once, it could happen again. But when you go to that property, gather some statistical information of where it happened, how it happened, when it happened, and try to reapply it over the course of time. The more time you spend boots on the ground on different properties, you're going to learn more. And the more times you do it, the more successful you're going to be. And I hope that helped you.